So I recently did a video on this knife, the Kamp King by Rough Ryder, after I saw another video that was talking about the bottle opener not working to open beer bottles. And I came home, tried it right away on the only beer bottle I actually had in the entire house, which was a Corona Extra. And lo and behold, I was not able to get it on there and get the little hook portion underneath one of the crimp parts here to pull the cap off. It just kept slipping off. So what I did was, well, first of all, what I did was I pulled down the original video that talked about the knife because, well, if it's not functioning right, I wanted to pull the video down. In any case, after I did that, I went ahead and get out my Dremel tool. Actually, it's a Craftsman knockoff Dremel tool. And I took a grinding wheel and I ground down the outside portion here. So this is smaller. And then I had a smaller grinding stone and I worked on the inside here and around there too. So I did some grinding work on it all around, and took me all of about 5 minutes, and it will now actually get underneath there, as you can see, and pop the cap off. I have not popped the cap off because it's the only beer bottle I have, and well, I will pop it off and throw it away because it's skanky beer right now. It hasn't been opened in over a year. In any case, at the same time, once I posted that, several people said it really depends on the beer bottle, because apparently, if you notice here on the Corona bottle, there is very much a big lip around the edges here, whereas here's another beer bottle, and there is no such lip there, so you can actually get this way underneath there, so you can actually get to the crimped portion of the cap and pop it off much easier. Well, there's no way for me to prove that now, simply because I've modified this Kamp King, and I just realized that I sent out my last Kamp King to a buddy of mine and need to reorder them before I can actually get any more of them. But in any case, because I've had many people say, no, it does work, it really depends on the beer bottle, I'm going to take their word for it, and I will post the video right after this I guess you could call it a disclaimer, that you may, your results with the cap lifter may or may not vary. But if you do have issues with it, it is an easy fix if you have something like a Dremel tool or a file and you want to file down that little point right there on your cap lifter, and then it will work. Now, the thing is for the most part, yes, I've used bottle openers on pocket knives. For instance, the one on the Victorinox, I've never had an issue with any kind of beer bottle with the one on the Victorinox. Never had an issue with one on my Camillus military knives, and I've never had issue with them on like my fish knives by Camillus and such. So all of these I know work just fine. But the thing is gotta also be honest with you, 99% of bottles that I open are opened with this little doohickey here. This has been on my keychain for probably close to 40 years, and this is usually my go-to tool for opening a bottle. I rarely use one on a pocket knife, and I do not check every pocket knife that I come in contact with that has a bottle opener to see if it works. And I just don't drink enough beer to really go out there and try it. Like I said, this one's been around the house for a year and it's skanky. Because I've never drank it. It's just been sitting in the basement for a year. And I know this thing, that's the kind of bottle opener I use. I rarely use one on a knife. So that's the issue. So My apologies once again about the Kamp King, but I'm going to go with what several other people have said and say that yes, the bottle opener will work, but it really depends on the bottle of beer that you're opening or your bottle of pop that you happen to be opening with the bottle opener. So there you go. So results may vary with the bottle opener, and I would say that with just about any other knife out there, because as you can see, not every rim of every beer bottle is going to be the same, and so it's going to be dependent on the beer bottle if that bottle opener is going to work or not. But these kind, they work on just about anything. Let's move on to the Kamp King video that I took down and I'm putting back up now. I just received a late Christmas present from Smoky Mountain Knife Works, specifically Andy over at Smoky Mountain Knife Works. Came with this note that said, "Tobias, here's the new Rough Ryder Kamp King Scout Knife. I've been keeping it a secret for over a year now. I send you this one free of charge with only one caveat. You have to not bring up new scout patterns for 6 months. Ha! Enjoy it. Yours, Andy." I'm debating on sending it back because, geez, how can I not bring up a new scout knife? And I guess that means I'm not supposed to show this to you because I'm not supposed to bring up anything about scout knives for 6 months, but I think they're going to let me slide on at least this one video. So I want to go ahead and review this Rough Ryder Kamp King Scout knife. What I love right away is that it just comes in your basic Rough Ryder box. There's nothing fancy about it. It's the RR 1987. It's not one of the big magnetic boxes. I don't need the big magnetic boxes. I know they were really cool for like presentations and stuff, but I'm cool with this box. Hey, anything as long as there's a scout knife in the inside. And this one is pretty dang cool. It is actually a Kamp King. That's what it says right there. And that in itself kind of amazed me because I was under the impression that the TM for, the trademark for Kamp King was something that Imperial held. Maybe they let it lapse or something, or maybe Rough Ryder is using it with permission or paying to use it or something like that. Regardless, that's pretty cool. Kamp King, the return of the Kamp King. Now, before I show this knife, let me show you an original Kamp King by Imperial, just so you can have a little bit of a comparison going on. Now, this is the original. First thing you'll notice, the bail is actually removable. You can pop that out. You see the brass spacer right down the middle. Fairly skinny knife compared to this one. Look at the bulk between the two. The other thing is these handles are known as shell handles. It looks like there's bolsters and like some kind of jigged bone or jigged Delrin or something in there. No, these are actually just snap on. Those are not true rivets or anything. These just snap on and they come off. And this actually is just black painted over there. And then the Kamp King shield is all molded into that. So it's a very inexpensive knife to make. And the reason they call these shells is because they're just shell handles that snap over the frame. And you see here, it's got the safety can opener. This was pioneered by Imperial. They're the ones that first had the patent for it. This particular one is from probably around the 1960s or so. And you see here, Imperial Prav RIA with the USA running down the side there. That is the last tank stamp that Imperial used. And they're cool knives. I mean, they were probably in the 75 cents to $1.25 range when they first came out. You notice it's got the angled punch on the back side here. You got the main blade. These usually use like 420 steel or something of that nature. I mean, these were very much an economy knife. And then it has the short cap lifter screwdriver going on over here. And that is your basic Kamp King. Colonial made the Forest Master. Camillus had the Camp Buddy. There are all sorts of different knives, but the one that most people are familiar with, I think, is probably the Imperial Kamp King. These really flooded the market for cheap, inexpensive knives, and you know, a decent enough camp knife. And there were tons of them out there, and you can still find them, but they're going to cost you a pretty penny, and really they are kind of a cheap, inexpensive knife. Now, let's move on to the Rough Ryder Kamp King. Now, first of all, I'm going to tell you right now, this thing and this thing, there really is not much to compare between them. The Rough Ryder Kamp King is a big hunkin' heavy knife. You see it has brass liners. Everything else are stainless steel back springs and spacers going between the two brass liners. The handles are actually black jigged bone. You can see a little bit of the color fading in the black there, but it actually looks really good, and it's pretty evenly matched on both sides. It is pinned there, and it is also glued in place. You can definitely feel a little bit of the pins in the jigging, but it's not bad. And then you also have the Kamp King shield, which is actually inlaid into the bone. I'm guessing it's glued in place. You see the bolsters. I believe they're nickel silver bolsters. I will put the specs from Smoky Mountain Knife Works up at the end of the video, so you know the sizes of the blades and all that other stuff at the very end. I'll do that in a slideshow. See the nice brass liners, and we already showed it before, but look at the difference in those blades, the thickness and everything else. This thing is just amazing. It is one big hunking knife. I mean, it is a pocketful. It is going to be a heavy knife. It actually is slightly larger than the older Rough Ryder camp knives, or the scout knives, whatever you want to call them. And it has a more functional can opener if you're interested in that can opener. And hey, it's a much better can opener. This one probably works good for box cutting, but you can also use this one for ripping open a box. And that's the cool thing. See there? Rough Ryder. If you notice, that is with an I. Rough Ryder with an I. If you remember from the note that I just read, Andy said he's been keeping this secret for over a year. So this production of the knife started before Rough Ryder switched to Rough Ryder with a Y. So it's one of those transitional knives. The boxes mark Rough Ryder, but all the blades on this stuff have Ryder, R-I-D-E-R. And you still have the half stop on everything. And the cool thing also is, notice what you got there? You have a long cap lifter screwdriver as opposed to the short one over here. And obviously these do not have a half stop like the Rough Ryder one does. So they carry over the long cap lifter screwdriver, but as you notice, it does look different than what you have in the other one. And it is slightly shorter than the other one. That's to fit in with the can opener that you have on the new version. But it also has the half stop, which is pretty cool. And I believe I like this. One of the complaints a lot of people have with the older scout knives is just how pointy the tip of the punch blade is, because it tends to get twisted or bent or something, because it is extremely pointy. It is like needle-like pointy. This one is not quite as needle-like pointy, but it has that little bit of a edge there, so you can actually punch into the leather and drill the hole. And it does have a decent enough edge on there for drilling a hole. I mean, this is not, in many ways, I think this punch is going to work better than this one. On many of the ones I had with these knives, I would actually dull the punch on this because it was so sharp that it would either break or bend anyway. So I would usually just dull it right away. This one I think will be a much more functional punch than the other one. And then you've got the main blade also, as you can see, Rough Ryder, and it's a big thick blade. So, and no wobble going on in any of this stuff. Just a fantastic knife. And all I can really say is thank you, SMKW, for finally coming out with a new scalp pattern, because I have been asking for years, and I'm glad to finally see a new one. And I'm also glad to see it with the safety can opener instead of the old-fashioned can opener. I'm hoping to see more. I'm not going to be asking anything. Andy asked me to be quiet about it for 6 months and give him a break, and I'll do that. So I'm not going to be shooting them emails or anything and saying, hey, how about one in white smooth bone or anything like that. That's not what I'm going to be doing, because you know what? I should just be grateful for what I got, That's what I've been taught many a times. Be grateful for what you got. So I'm not going to be sending them notes saying, hey, how about white smooth bone in that Kamp King? Or how about something with a new shield or something like that? Now, I'm not going to tell you not to do that, but I'm not going to do that. That would just be rude. I will not do it at least for 6 months like he asked. I'm not going to be begging them to come out with anything new. But I will tell you that this thing is built like a Sherman tank, and it is just one excellent knife. I'm really pleased with it. And for 15 bucks, you can't go wrong. This is just a fantastic knife. Typical Rough Ryder 440A stainless steel, back for life with the warranty on any kind of defects or anything like that. And nice walk and talk going on with it. Excellent blades. That is going to definitely be a good usable can opener. And obviously you can just punch that in through the tape and use it to rip tape and cut up, rip boxes open and stuff like that too, if you want to do that. And you've got that wonderful long screwdriver, which is going to be really helpful. Now, for those who were hoping for a detachable bill, I'm sorry they do not come with a detachable bill like the old Kamp Kings, but quite frankly, I don't like the detachable bills. I think they're inexpensive. Well, they wobble around too much. And this one's pretty good. It doesn't move a whole lot, which is good, because it's not going to get in the way of the blade when you're closing it. And that's something that happens with a lot of camp knives. This ends up getting up here, you close the blade and slap, and you end up with that little dent in the blade. And with the new Kamp King, at least the one I got, the bill does not wobble around too much, so I don't have to worry about getting it caught in the blade or anything like that. So like I said, I will give you the dimensions on this, the blade thickness and everything else in a slideshow after this video. And and I will honor Andy's request and not bug them for a new version of the Kamp King or any other Scout knives for at least 6 months. But that said, you know what would look really good with this knife? How about a Fish King, based off of the old Camilla's Army Air Force emergency knife? Nice single-bladed 5-inch fish knife with the scaler up on the top of the blade, the hook remover down at the bottom, and the nice liner lock going on. and a nice matching shield that said Fish King instead of Kamp King. Wouldn't that be cool? Oh well, just an idea. As it is, thanks a lot, SMKW. Thanks a lot, Andy, for bringing out a new Kamp King. And I'm telling everyone right now, hurry over there and buy one or two, because I'm going to be buying a lot of them, and they might run out. So let me just go over the specifications on the knife real quickly. Now, before I begin, the Kamp King name actually did fall out of trademark. I found that out watching the Smoky Mountain Knives Works guys talk knives. They were talking about this particular knife, and they mentioned that the trademark actually fell into public domain several years ago, and I guess now Rough Ryder owns the trademark. They picked it up, so that's pretty cool for them. You can see the page here, gives you all the information on the knife, or the most important information on the knife. For the record, it says closed length is 3.625 inches. That is 3 5/8 of an inch. That is actually an eighth of an inch shorter than the older Kamp knives that they had, the RR 533 and RR 573, the red jig bone and the amber jig bones. Those are actually 3 3/4 inches long. Now, 3 5/8 inches is approximately 92 millimeters. You also see the blade thickness. Do I have the blade thickness here? Yeah. The main blade thickness is 1/16 of an inch. That comes out to be 1.58 millimeters. You see the other things as we already know. 440A stainless steel, typical of every Rough Ryder knife out there. Nickel silver shield, nickel silver bolsters as far as I know, match strike pull, black bone handle, brass liner, and a plain edge on the blade there. And as we all know, it's a scout knife with a spear point blade, and wonderful black jig bone handles. And you see the price right there, $14.99, and yes, it is made in China. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this knife is built like a Sherman tank, and the weight is noticeable in it. You can see here the comparison between an Imperial Kamp King, the Rough Ryder 533 Kamp knife. These are the ones made back in 2005, and now the Rough Ryder 1978 Kamp King, which just came out in 2020. And you see the original Imperial was 2.58 ounces versus 4.12 ounces for the Kamp King. And the Kamp King is slightly heavier than the 533 Kamp knife, even though the Kamp King is only 3 5/8 inches long, and the Kamp knife, the Rough Ryder Kamp knife, was 3 3/4 inches long. So this is an eighth of an inch shorter, and it's still heavier, and that's because of how stocky it is built. Now, the bone handles and all that extra stainless steel in it is also why it weighs so much more than that Imperial Kamp King. Yes, it's going to ride a little heavier in your pocket, but there are several advantages to having a heavier scout knife. One of them being the old trick of where you tie a line to the end of your Kamp King or your knife, so you can throw it over that tree branch, so you can get that line up in the tree, so you can pull up your food and everything up off the ground, or set a line for a tent or any of that other stuff where you need a line hanging off of a tree branch up above your head. This knife is going to pull that line over more successfully than that lighter Imperial Kamp King. And it's just going to feel more firm and robust in your hand also. But you can see the differences in the weights. I mean, 2.58 ounces versus 4.12 ounces, or 73 grams versus 116.8 grams, almost 117 grams for the new Rough Ryder Kamp King. But that is because, like I mentioned, it is built like a Sherman tank. And you will probably be seeing a lot more of these knives in the future, because I plan on using them as giveaways
in the future on my channel, because that's how much I really like this knife. But also, I strongly urge you to head over to Smoky Mountain Knife Works and pick one up, because I'm not the only one who is planning on stocking up on these, so they could very well run out of them, even though it is not the most popular pattern in the world. At least my goal is that they run out of them, so that they will consider buying more. Also, I'm not going to be bothering SMKW about more camp knives, but they said nothing about me bugging WR Case and Son and Great Eastern Cutlery. Maybe this will be the year of the camp knife. And finally, thanks for watching, and thank you to SMKW and Andy for coming out with a new camp knife from Rough Ryder. I truly appreciate it, and I am going to do everything I can to make this a very successful pattern. So you can count me in on buying quite a few of them. Thank you for visiting Knife Chats. I hope you enjoyed your time here. If you did, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel and ringing that notification bell so that you will be notified when the next episode of Knife Chats is up online. Thanks again. See you soon.